This is Harry Houck. He was in his 80s when he visited us in 1979 at our local meet. He'd heard that we were going to talk about Armstrong and honor Armstrong. So in 1979, Harry Houck took a trip, came to the Niagara Frontier Wireless Association. It was just a small group of people, small meeting. And I was a little nervous because I was the main speaker. And I thought, oh no, he's going to catch me on any mistakes. I better really stick close to my facts. But he was such a gentleman. He sat in the audience and smiled and nodded. And then he took a trip with us in our four-wheel drive truck out to the country where we lived. And he graciously signed copies of our 1920s radio news that featured the Super Heterodyne, Armstrong's second great invention. These are examples of books that we have in our library. And if you remember W.E.D. Stokes, is your founder. Well, we didn't know that when we found these books. We'd been told that they were at a Brimfield, Massachusetts flea market, that there were wireless books there. Didn't have a clue what we were going to see. We drove all the way overnight. My husband was a maniac. He said, we've got to get there, we've got to get there. We managed to get to the flea market and found the greatest collection of wireless books in one place, this library. 22 of the volumes are here. They're numbered up to 25, but only 22 are pictured. And that's all that we ever could find. But they're from 1900 to 1909. And we didn't know until almost a year later. We found a clue, an appointment card, that stated that there was Stokes on the end. And we were able to narrow it down to, oh my gosh, we have W.E.D. Stokes Library. And this may have, I'm sure Armstrong had a hand in helping him to pick these books out. Here's a picture of Armstrong's wife, Marion, who stood by his side through his trials and tribulations. And this is his second great invention, the Super Heterodyne. Armstrong was able to come across this invention through the process of three major events. He understood the heterodyne principle because he worked under Pupin at Columbia University when he was in college. Second, he got stalled waiting to go across the English Channel when he was in France. And he had to wait 3 days, and in that time he went and he met up with Round and saw what Round was doing in Britain with the Allies. And then he was able to understand a little bit more about how they could catch the emissions of the German warships at the time. And thirdly, when he was wandering around in France listening to the bombers, he began to think about, well, how can I, maybe if we can detect those short waves coming from the bombers, we can actually be able to, we should be able to invent something to detect those. And he did. The super regenerative set. We have a copy of the super regenerative set in the AWA museum. And here is Armstrong, picture of Armstrong with his super regenerative. You use these principles every day. Don't really think about it, but without Armstrong, we may not have been here for years, and who knows where we would be today. And now, I'm going to turn it over to Bruce Rolls.